There is change.org is actually a website where you can start your own petitions. It doesn't actually do anything. You don't actually, like, it's not like the government has to act, but you can start a petition and get a bunch of people to pay a couple of bucks and sign and whatever, and you can set a goal. It's kind of interesting. It's not official, but it is kind of interesting. But I'm seeing a bunch of people talk about nominating Brandon Herrera as director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. As individuals valuing our Second Amendment rights and aware of the current complexities in gun laws and legislation, we see Brandon Herrera as the perfect candidate for the role of director of the ATF. Half of American adults, approximately 114 million people, currently own firearms, showing the widespread relevance and importance of this issue, according to Pew Research Center. Having a knowledgeable and practical individual such as Brandon Herrera as an FFL holder with a deep understanding of the rights conferred by the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and the current laws surrounding it, et cetera, we believe that nominating Brandon Herrera as ATF director will offer a well-informed perspective to the ATF and contribute to a fair and balanced approach to legislation enforcement. I was not really all that familiar with Brandon Herrera before this, but I thought it was interesting that he's getting so much attention. But I did look him up, and he seems like a really good, solid dude. Rich, did you hear this guy
Yeah,
before?
I was familiar with Brandon. He had his YouTube channel.
Yeah,
AK guy, right?
Yeah,
and then,
2 million people.
Yeah, he knows how to YouTube, right? So,
yeah, 2 million people follow him, and he's had some interesting. Some of his bigger YouTube videos have been testing Joe Rogan's JFK bullet theory. 9.4 million people saw that. The worst internet gun fails, number 7, the Darwin Awards, with 8.4 million views. He's also known as the AK guy, right? In fact, the name of his company is AK Guy Inc., firearms manufacturing company, and the developer of a 50 caliber AK pattern anti-material rifle known as the AK-50. Sam, do you know this guy at all?
Not personally, but I've seen some of his work. He's certainly an interesting pick, I think was the word that was used, and I definitely agree with that. I had actually heard about perhaps not the petition as such, but I had heard that there was some interest. I didn't know how serious it was in bringing him in as the ATF director, but I'm much more inclined to believe it. First of all, I think that would be really neat. I think that would be interesting. I would like to. I've long complained that the people who write the gun laws don't understand firearms at all. Right? It would be like if all of the departments of motor vehicles in all the 50 states, and like even let's say the Department of Transportation, was run by the Amish. Not to cast aspersions on them, but they don't drive cars,
right?
And they don't fly airplanes,
right?
And I don't think they ride trains. So why would you have the Department of Transportation run by people who don't really have any reason why they would understand the subject matter,
or even like them?
Right.
I mean, they're anti, train and plane.
Well, I think it's even worse than that, because Amish people don't go around proselytizing to the rest of us, telling us that driving cars is sinful. They just do their own thing, and they want to be left alone. But
they want to be left alone.
The ATF do try to go after otherwise law-abiding gun owners and gun dealers with their Byzantine regulations and constant reinterpretations of laws to create new crimes ex post facto, because maybe they don't think they have anything better to do, like go after the real criminals.
Yeah. Well, and Brandon Herrera, by the way, 28 years old, this guy. He's 28 years old. He actually ran for Congress in Texas.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Yeah, and he almost beat another Republican. He is a Republican. He almost beat a Republican incumbent who he was very critical of. They're fairly critical of, but he came real close. And I got to tell you, man, I'm getting the impression that he is a serious contender. Is that the impression you guys are getting, Rich? You think like, it sounds like this is not a tongue in cheek thing. It sounds like they're saying, "Hey, yeah, let's get this guy in."
Well, I don't know. You know, Trump's already put some
Yeah,
people in
Yeah.
place already, right?
right.
And so, you know,
If Matt Gaetz can be AG, Brandon Herrera sure as hell can be
Yeah.
ATF director.
Yeah.
I get it. At 28 years old, I hope the entire ATF quits and protest. I mean, those guys what kind of person works for the ATF anyway? This guy's a bunch of losers. Like, put a 28-year-old in front of them, in charge of them, and muzzle that beast. I say. I mean, how bad could he? Couldn't be. Like, how bad could he be? It sounds like he'd be wonderful. So
I have a question for you guys. So would it be better, in your opinion, to have somebody like Brandon in charge of the ATF, or would it be better just to disband it?
That's a good question. Why not both? Put him in charge of the ATF and then fire everybody. And his whole job is just to sit there in an office and put out educational videos. I don't know. What do you think, Sam?
Well, first of all, what I think is more likely, I mean, it would be great to have Mr. Herrera or anyone else who actually has a modicum of understanding of firearms and firearms law as director of the ATF. And the fact that it would be great is why it won't happen. We're not that lucky. I think that the incoming presidential administration will do the exact same thing it did the last time Trump was in office, which is leave the seat vacant and just have a series of acting directors for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. If the ATF, I don't think the ATF should exist. So number one, get rid of it. But that's an act of Congress. He's the executive branch. So I think that if he honestly, sincerely could get somebody in there that went after actual bad guys, there are bad people who try to use what we cherish and use, for defense. They use it, to commit crimes.
If they actually did what they advertised that they were going to do.
Yes, but what I have seen of the ATF is that they are a predatory organization that goes after they're full of anti-gun folks, and they go after law-abiding gun owners. They go after gun shops that are law-abiding, and they make their life impossible to live. I can tell you horror story after horror story. The ATF, the folks that are in it, the folks that run it are horrible people and need to be booted or at least muzzled. So, preference number one, get rid of it, but that's not really what the executive branch can do. Preference number two, put somebody in there that will at least muzzle them and protect law-abiding people from the monsters at ATF, and then redirect their efforts towards catching real bad guys.
Some of you may recall, astute regular listeners may recall that I actually wrote a post for the SDCGO blog a while ago, within the past couple of years, I think, called "Enough is Enough. It's Time to Disband ATF."
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Hey, from the comment section,
Yeah.
Gun Websites is saying Michael Cargill. Are you guys familiar with Michael Cargill?
Oh, gosh.
Absolutely. Who isn't?
It's slipping my head. Tell us about Michael Cargill.
He is the gentleman who brought the bump stock case.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
That Michael Cargill.
Has over 35 years of firearms experience in the military and private sector combined. Yes. Keep going. What else do you know about Michael Cargill?
That of course he was a dealer, which is why the case became a thing. He comes from Texas.
Yeah.
And that's
Central.
That's about the extent of my knowledge, but I've heard him speak before, in video recorded form, of course, not in person. And he seems, he does not at all come off as the kind of person who one of the nationwide 2A orgs just sort of looked for as a plaintiff. He seems really passionate about 2A issues, and very well informed, and also very well spoken, which is an important thing for public figures to be. Unfortunately, like it or not, you don't just have to be a subject matter expert to be good at your job in one of these cabinet positions. You do really have to be a good presenter, or at least it helps.
Yeah.
And so I think he would be a really good pick.
Army vet. He was in the Army. He was a sergeant, went into the private sector as an instructor, taught more than 50,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, he's in Central Texas. He actually runs Central Texas Gunworks, or did. I don't know if he still does, but he's an FFL. I think the point here is, I don't know much more about him than that. I'm obviously familiar with the Cargill case, which is awesome, and the bump stock issue and what they were able to accomplish. But I think what the point here is, what we all agree on, is get somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, actually supports Second Amendment rights, understands firsthand, because they are an FFL, what the challenges are from these ghouls at the ATF and how they're abusing their power and abusing firearms dealers. I think that's kind of the point. Whether it's Herrera or Cargill or somebody similar, get somebody in there, like you said, Sam, who can communicate but is an actual subject matter expert because they support the idea of the Second Amendment and have worked in it. I think that's probably the point.
Right.
All right. What do we got? What else?
That's a novel idea, right? Having people that know actually what the subject matter of what the department's supposed to govern.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I want that as an idea.